If you're someone who has only had to apply to one job, get an interview, and then you get the job, this video is not for you. However, if you're one of the many individuals who has to apply to multiple jobs, interview multiple times, and even then you may not get the job, this video is for you. Hey, I'm Abby and welcome back to the Life Work Balance YouTube channel. Today I want to talk to you about what to do if you are getting a lot of interviews, but you're not getting any job offers. Before we jump into that, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you're looking forward to the tips today. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. So first off, take a moment to congratulate yourself that you're actually getting interviews. This is a huge win. It means that people like your application, they like your resume, they like your cover letter, and they like any other supporting documentation that you might be uploading with your application package. So it's a huge win for the fact that you're actually getting interviews. If you're not getting interviews, you may want to consider that your application is lacking in some way, shape, or form. You probably first want to check your resume to make sure that it's tailored and specific to the job that you are applying to. If your resume is tailored and you think it's pretty good, it might be some other documentation or other aspects of your application. For example, many people forget to upload a cover letter or choose not to upload a cover letter because it's too much work. I highly recommend you upload a cover letter to every job application because it just is one additional thing that can set you apart from any other applicant. The other thing that might be holding you back in even getting interviews is the way that you're completing your applications. Many times an application will have additional supplemental questions that you need to answer in order for you to get to the next step in the process. You're probably answering these questions in a way that is not in line with what the hiring manager or recruiter is looking for. First off, you need to ensure that you meet the minimum qualifications and that you find and identify the questions that will trigger if you meet or don't meet the minimums. If you don't meet the minimums, there's no chance that you'll be seen by the hiring manager or recruiter. However, once you've identified the questions that indicate that you do meet the minimum requirements, then you need to identify the questions that indicate that you will meet the preferred qualifications. From there, you want to make sure that you're answering any question that is multiple choice with the truest, most honest answer, and then you want to answer any free text or free response questions with a full, thoughtful response. If you're doing all of those things and you're still not getting interviews, please go ahead and contact me and we can work together to try to get you in a better place when it comes to your job applications. However, if you are getting interviews, but you're just not getting any job offers, there are a couple of things that might be at play. First, and probably the most common reason why you're not getting any responses or getting a job offer after your interview is that it's not actually you. It's other circumstances that may be at play that you just aren't aware of. A lot of the time, these are things that you cannot control and that you probably have no knowledge of. So for example, this might include something like maybe the organization loses budget for the position and no one gets hired into the position. Maybe the organization or the team is restructuring or reorganizing and they've decided that they don't need the position any longer, or they're going to take this position and convert it into a different type of position. Maybe the hiring team already had someone in mind with who they wanted to hire, whether it was an internal employee or internal candidate, a friend or family member, or even a referral from a different employee. And they just had to post it because that's company policy. Maybe you interviewed later in the hiring process and they were already going through the hiring process with someone else and they wanted to continue interviewing people just in case that one person didn't work out. They did end up working out, and so that's why you didn't get the job offer. Or the hiring team had to divert their attention to something else and hiring was either paused or discontinued altogether. So it's very possible that you did not get the job offer because there were many other things at play that you A, weren't aware of, or B, just didn't know. So if you feel like you had a great interview and you're confused as to why you didn't get the job offer, it is perfectly acceptable to reach out to the hiring manager or the recruiter, thank them for the opportunity, and then ask them for some feedback. Many times, clients I work with who get an interview are afraid to send that follow-up message requesting feedback. Sometimes if they do send a follow-up message requesting feedback and the feedback they receive is either vague or not very helpful, that can sometimes happen. However, there are times where the hiring manager or recruiter will provide you with very valuable feedback. So what you want to do is you want to email or call the hiring manager and recruiter, thank them for the opportunity to interview for the position, and then you want to request some feedback. It's best to quantify the type of feedback that you're looking for. So for example, maybe you're asking for one thing that you can do to improve future interviews. Maybe you're asking for 3 to 5 tips on things that you might be able to do so that you can stand out as a better candidate for the next position that might be available on their team. You want to make sure that your request for feedback is short, so you're not requesting pages of documentation, and you also want to keep it professional and polite. While you might be frustrated and upset that you did not get the opportunity to get the job, it is beyond your control at this point. And if you are not polite or professional during this part of the feedback process, then there is no chance they will want to hire you in the future. So you've contacted the hiring manager and recruiter, you've thanked them for the opportunity, and now you have requested feedback. So let's say that there is something that you could have done differently in your interview to be the best candidate. First and foremost, don't beat yourself up too much. Your interview was in the past, and now it's a learning opportunity so that you can improve and be better for next time. So how can you know what you could have done differently, and what can you do better next time? Well, first, you may have gotten feedback from the hiring manager, the interviewers, or the recruiter. If they give you feedback, you can use that as data so that you can improve for your next interview. However, if you're not quite sure what went wrong, do a little bit of self-evaluation. Try to do this with as little judgment on yourself as possible. Try to be as objective as possible so that you don't beat yourself up too much. First, you want to evaluate what went well in your interview. Well, first, you got the interview in the first place. That's a huge win. Second, maybe you were on time and well-dressed. If it was an in-person interview, maybe you looked the part and you brought all of the information that you needed with you. If it was virtual, maybe your background was clean and simple and you didn't have any distractions going on in the background. Maybe you had a really good response, or maybe you had several good responses to the questions that they asked you. So first, evaluate what went well. Then you want to evaluate what didn't go so well. What could have gone better? You could take the feedback that you get from the hiring manager, the interviewers, or the recruiter, or maybe you're doing some self-evaluation and there are some areas of improvement that you've identified. Maybe there were some questions that either threw you off or confused you. Maybe there were some questions that you didn't know the answer to. Maybe you could have prepared better. So now that you know what went well and what could have gone better, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to prepare differently? Are you going to answer certain questions differently? Are you going to dress differently and behave differently, either on camera if it's a virtual interview or in person if it's an in-person interview? And along those same lines, that leads me to a question for you, which is, did you practice enough? Many times I work with clients who just wing their interviews. They get an interview, they don't do any preparation or practice before, and they just show up, they wing it, and then they don't get the job. I highly, highly recommend that you practice interviewing. Record yourself answering common interview questions. Don't just stand in front of your mirror and respond to yourself without recording yourself. When you record yourself, you will see how you come off verbally as well as physically. Maybe you are squinting your eyes the entire time, or you have a weird behavioral twitch that's going on with you. Maybe you say or like a lot. Maybe you're twirling your hair or you're messing with something, and that's very distracting. Maybe you might even notice the way that you respond to questions either sounds robotic, or you're answering it in a way that sounds like a question at the end of every answer. I highly recommend you practice interviewing. Whether this is just by yourself in your bedroom, recording yourself on your phone, answering interview questions so that you can see and hear yourself, or if it's with a friend or family member. If you've tried the friend or family member and you don't feel like you've gotten adequate feedback from them, I am available to work with you. I do mock interviews with clients all of the time to help them prepare for their upcoming interviews. I also record my mock interviews, so you will get a recording of yourself interviewing. You'll then be able to take that recording and evaluate it to determine if there's something that you could be doing differently in your actual interviews, whether it's the way that you're physically showing up or the way that you're answering questions. So if you record yourself, you also have to make sure that you're going to watch yourself. Sometimes it's really easy to record yourself and then think, I nailed it, I'm not going to watch that video. However, turn that video on, take 10 minutes of your day, watch it and evaluate yourself so that you can make sure that you show up as the best version of yourself and you are aware of how you're going to come off to interviewers in the future. So hopefully this video was helpful. I mentioned a couple of times that I am available to work with you if you would like to do a mock interview. My contact information is listed in the description box below. Please go ahead and reach out to me if that's something that you're interested in. If you found this video helpful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And please, if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, please put them in the comments box below. I do take the time to review and answer every single comment that comes through, and I love getting questions from my viewers and having discussions about what things might be happening for them in their job search process. If you haven't already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you can receive life-work balance advice delivered directly to you every Sunday. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.